Tonight I'm coming to share with you some phonics teaching activities. And at the time that I'm recording this, a lot of us are teaching remotely. We're not in our classrooms. We're not able to do phonics instruction or really any kind of instruction like we normally would. And there's been a lot of changes and just a lot of things that we've all had to cope with. So what I'm going to share with you in this video are some phonics routines that you can do very easily in the classroom, teaching remotely. I'm going to talk about how to do them both ways. And if you're teaching remotely right now, hopefully this will give you some things, just go-to activities that you can do with different phonics patterns that you may be teaching. And I just hope that this is helpful to you wherever you are in the world. And I'm sending you good thoughts because I know that this is a really difficult time. So if you're joining me, I would love for you to let me know what grade you teach so I know who I'm talking to. And then also let me know if you're teaching remotely, if you know how long you'll be teaching remotely. I'm going to go and just double check the chat to make sure that I am live and we are good to go. And then we will get right into things. Okay, so I do see that we are good. Let me just see. Would somebody just comment and let me know if you can hear me okay so that I know I'm good, because I'm having an issue with being able to see comments. Let me see. Okay, yay, comments are working now. Okay, amazing. Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Emily. I appreciate that so much. Technology, right? We're all dealing with so much of it right now. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Bev. Awesome. Okay, so let's dive in. So as I said, we're going to talk about phonics routines that you can incorporate in your daily routine, whether it's teaching in person or teaching remotely. And then I'm also going to share some information with you about my new phonics program, which is currently available for pre-sale now through April 24th. And then it will be fully launching in September, but right now is an opportunity to grab it at a big discount and get early access to the materials, over some now and some over the summer. So let's go ahead and dive in. But before that, I just wanted to make sure that you knew about my big freebie. So because I'm having the pre-sale for the phonics program, I also have a whole week of instruction ready for you. It's actually 3 weeks. So there's the kindergarten level, first grade level, second grade level, and you can get that for free. So it's a week of instruction, all kinds of different games and activities. So if you haven't grabbed it yet, I put the link in this post for you to do that. You may want to do that after we talk, just so that you don't miss anything or lose the connection. But those links are there for you when you are ready for them. All right, so the 5 activities that we're going to go over and talk about how to do them in person and also remotely are a written sort and decodable passages, or having the kids read decodable passages, word building, dictation, and breaking up words into syllables. And I'll talk about why each one deserves attention, why it follows best practices for phonics instruction, and then also how you can adapt it no matter what kind of teaching situation you are in. You are so welcome, Stacy. Welcome, Marie in Costa Rica. So glad you're here. All right, so this first one is one that I'm calling a written sort. And if you've done any word sorting with kids, or you're familiar with, all kinds of like programs or activities where they're comparing patterns, you probably already know that teaching kids to recognize patterns in words is absolutely essential. Even though the English language is a little nutty, I believe it's like 85% of words do follow patterns. And so, of course, in order for our kids to be able to read and write more words, because there's so many that they need to learn in their schooling, they need to learn to recognize patterns and generalize patterns. And so this written sort, you might have heard of a regular sort where kids are like moving words into the correct column. This written sort is a little bit different. And what you would do, let's say you're having your kids study AI and AY. Those patterns, I believe, are included in that free week. And, the kids have been practicing a little bit with it already. And what you want to do now is have an opportunity for them to practice spelling the words. So they're familiar with the words, they've read them, and maybe they've even sorted them. But now what you can do after they're a little bit familiar with them is you can get into a written sort. Now, if you were in the classroom, let me see if can I zoom in more on here? Yeah. If you are in the classroom, you might give your kids a sheet like this, where it says AI in one column and then AY in another column. And so in the normal classroom situation, you would read a word, the kids would decide where it goes, and then they would write it in the correct column. And then at that point, you can do one of two things. You can go all the way through the words and then go back and have them fixed. But with younger students, sometimes it's more helpful to read them the word, they write it in either column, depending on where it's supposed to go, and then talking about it immediately afterward. And I see Monica's asking for ages. So I really don't do this with kindergartners, although at the end of the year, if your kids are advanced, they might be ready for this. The AI and AY spelling pattern is not something that I would teach like a typical kindergartner, but definitely appropriate for first grade and up. I've even worked with kids during sixth grade and done this activity. So it's really very versatile. As long as you're comparing 2 or 3 word patterns, you can do this. Okay, so again, just to reiterate, in the classroom, what you do is the kids would have their sheets. You could even just have them draw a line down a piece of paper and then label it like AI or AY, whatever patterns you're comparing. You read a word, the kids figure out A, what column it goes in, and B, how to spell it, and they write it. And then either you have them check it and correct it immediately, which is helpful for the little ones, or you wait until they've done like 10 words and then you go back and correct. Now let's talk about how you might do this for distance learning. So for distance learning, you can absolutely still do this activity. And I know everybody's like expectations are different as far as what their school goes. So if in the chat, you would just let me know, do your kids have hard copy packets? Are they doing a lot of just like online stuff or apps? Let me know what your specific situation is so that I can kind of speak to that. But generally speaking, what my recommendation would be is to have kids just on a blank sheet of paper, any scrap of paper, divide that into 2 columns. Just like you saw up here, you just show them, okay, here, you put the AI here and you put the AY there. And then you need a way of getting them the words. Of course, you could just email or text parents a list of words. That's always an option. But if you want to be the one who is giving them the word, I'm going to talk about a couple of video options. You might be doing live video chats where the kids are there with you and you can read the word and they in their homes can write the word in the columns, really similar to how you would do it if you were doing it in class. But on the other hand, some schools aren't doing live video chats or it's just not feasible for that. So you can make a video without the kids there that they can watch on their own and they can still do this activity watching your video, but without you actually reading them live. So if you want to make a video recording that the kids can then, watch at the time that's convenient for them and do, here's what I would recommend. First, you're going to need some kind of screen recording software like Loom, Loom, which is free for schools right now, which is awesome. Loom will allow you to share your screen, just like I'm sharing my screen with you right now. You will be able to share your screen with Loom and the kids will be able to see you. And so what you can share with the kids is a PowerPoint. I did a little screenshot here of a PowerPoint, but if you can see it, there's a blank slide and a word and a blank slide and a word. And here's what I would do. I would start at the very beginning on the blank slide. I would direct them to, do their paper just like I showed you. And then I would say, okay, your job is to figure out whether the word has the AI spelling pattern or the AY spelling pattern. Your first word is rain. And so then I would say, pause the video and write the word rain. So the kids, when they're watching this, they pause the video, they write the word rain. And then meanwhile, you're still going on with the video because you would then switch to the next slide, which would show the word rain, and then the kids would check their work. So you make the video continuously without pausing it yourself, but you tell the kids when it's time for them to pause the video and write the word. So you can essentially do it just like you would in class, but make that video ahead of time, make the PowerPoint with all the words, and you alternate blank slide word, blank slide word. And that's one way to do the written sort via distance learning. So let's see what everybody has. Vanessa says some Google Slides. Stacy says some Google Classroom. Hey, Tracy, Melissa, lots of Google Slides. So yeah, I've said PowerPoint, but you could absolutely do that with Google Slides as well. Tara doing Seesaw. Vanessa, yeah, doing Google Classroom. Yeah, all of that can absolutely be done that I was talking about with any of those tools. With hard copy packets too, you could just give them, you know, a sheet like this, and then you give a separate page for the parents. You say, okay, one by one, you read the word, use it in a sentence, and then the kids have to decide where it goes. Just make sure to tell the parents to use it in a sentence. And then whether you're doing this activity in person or via distance learning, however you're doing it, you just want to make sure that the kids read aloud the column of words once they're finished. We always want kids reading the words that they write, that they make. So whether they're doing that at home or they're doing that with you, that is a must do. Now, if you have some advanced students, they can really take this to the next level. Differentiation can be hard it's hard in the classroom, much less via distance learning, right? We're all just kind of trying to survive here. But with your advanced kids, what you might invite them to do is to add more words they know into each column. So maybe, you know, you've read them 10 words, and then their little assignment or their challenge is to see, can they think of any other AI words or any other AY words, and can they add that to their little page? So that's something you can do for your more advanced students. Okay, so that was the written sort. And again, this is great for when you go back to school and you have your normal, you know, kind of phonics routine going on. But the nice thing about this is it's so versatile. I would say don't do it with more than 3 patterns, but, you know, even with like your kindergartners, maybe they're studying 2 like digraphs like CH and SH, and they can do this on a very basic level. And also, just to reiterate, this is something that you wouldn't do as soon as you introduce a phonics pattern. You would do this, you know, after they had some opportunities to read the words, maybe actually physically sort words, make some words. It could be a test. You could use this as an assessment, but it's just an opportunity for them to practice spelling the words and also thinking about which pattern each word has. So Mark's asking what I'm using to share the screen or record the video. Yeah, no worries. So Screencastify I've heard is really good. I haven't used it myself. Loom is what I was recommending. Loom. I have the Google Chrome extension. Right now I'm using a different program that's just for Facebook, but when I make videos like I was talking about with the, you know, the PowerPoint for kids and whatever, I tend to use Loom. So I like Loom. Okay, let's move on to decodable passages. I actually like to call them phonics controlled passages because what a decodable passage is a passage that is limited in words to, in theory, words that kids should be able to decode based upon the phonics patterns that they learned so far. And whether something is decodable or not actually depends on the child, right? Because, you know, Sally is going to know different phonics patterns than Juan is. So I've labeled this as decodable because that's what most people call them, but I like to call them phonics controlled passages. And I have seen how absolutely helpful these passages are in, you know, getting my kids to apply their learning and just getting them to use their phonics knowledge. So my phonics program from Sounds of Spelling is actually going to have 2 phonics passages per week. Some programs only have 1. I feel like at least 2 is great, and of course they can reread them, but the more the better, because decodable passages really get kids to apply their knowledge of phonics. And if you've ever had a child, like maybe they were learning a phonics skill in one context during word work, and then they're like reading or writing in another context, and they're not applying that same knowledge. Like it seems like they know a pattern, but then when they're reading or writing, they're not thinking about it. Well, decodable passages really encourage kids because you're telling them, hey, you know, this passage is full of SH words. Let's see if you can find all the SH words. You're really getting them to make that connection between phonics instruction and actual reading and writing. And that's what we want. Research shows that phonics instruction should be done out of context, like working just on words, but it also needs to happen in context. So while kids are reading and writing. So decodable passages are a great way to get that in context practice. All right, when you're looking for decodable passages, I'm sure you've probably seen some that are a little bit wacky, decodable passages or books. This could be books as well, right? Especially at the beginning of kindergarten, beginning of first grade, I tend to use more like books so that they, I don't know, it's just like a different feel for them. So decodable passages or books. But when you're looking for decodable passages or books, you wanna look for ones that are as close as possible to normal spoken English. You don't want the sentences to be so strange sounding that the kids feel like, you know, it becomes more of like a skill-based thing than actually making meaning, because there should be meaning making from the decodable passages. Now, at the earlier levels, kids aren't going to be able to practice like the most complex comprehension skills with them, that's okay, that's normal, but they should be able to understand what they're reading. It shouldn't be so strange sounding. So look for that when you're choosing decodable passages or books. So this is an example of a decodable passage, and this is from first grade, I believe, of From Sounds to Spelling. That's the phonics program that I was talking about. And you can probably guess that this is for working on the long O spelling pattern, O-E. It's called Joe, Mo, and the oboe. So we've got this little passage here. These are great for developing vocabulary too, because oboe is a word that a lot of first graders might not know. So you introduce the passage, might talk about what that is. And then in this passage, there's just one word that I would expect the kids not to know. So that word was bread, and I would pre-teach it. So all these other words are controlled for the specific phonics patterns that have been taught thus far in my program From Sounds to Spelling. So it's all building on what they've done previously, and there's also a lot of OE words because that was our focus skill. Now, before the kids read the passage, of course, you introduce it briefly. You can, if you want to, and this is very helpful for kids that have trouble applying their phonics knowledge to their reading, you might want to have them circle or highlight the OE words ahead of time. Now, if you feel like, okay, like my kids are going to be able to apply it pretty easily, you can still have them just read the story and then go back and circle the OE words and read the story again. Afterward, I like to have the kids write about it. I have them talk about the text. Retelling is really good. I usually like to have them retell to a partner and then talk to a partner about their answers to their questions and then write. So here, just in this decodable passage, we have the phonics practice, and then there's reviewing of all the skills and the high frequency words that come earlier in the program. There's the application of phonics knowledge to the actual text. There's oral language, there's vocabulary, there's comprehension. There's so much that can be done with these decodable passages. So that's why I'm a big believer in using them. So we went over most of this already. This is just about the kids highlighting or circling words either before or after they read, and absolutely talking with a partner before they write. Talking really helps kids get ready to write. So that's something that I try to do as often as possible. Okay, Amanda says, what devices support your program? Do computer and tablets work, or do students need to download a special app to use the program you've put together? They can access the materials on any computer. So when you purchase From Sounds to Spelling, there's a special site where you log in, but the kids don't need to log in. And that special site will give you access to, all the different materials. And I'm going to show you some examples later. And from there, you can use a website. If you want to send stuff virtually to kids, you can use a website called Small PDF. And when you get the PDFs, they're set up for teacher use, right? They're not set up for remote learning per se, because From Sounds to Spelling got started, long before all this pandemic stuff happened. But you can take those PDFs that are in the program and you can actually split them up using smallpdf.com. And you can pull out pages and you can send something like, this passage to your families, because you can just pull out that one page. And again, that was Small PDF, and I clicked on Split PDF. So in an ordinary teaching situation, you would of course just print what you would want the kids to use, but that's how you could share it in a remote teaching situation. And then another thing too, let's say that your kids are not printing stuff, that is a-okay. You can still just share like the PDF with the passage with them, and they can answer the questions either by just telling their parents, or you could have them make a video of them answering the questions. Or what you could do is the parents with either the kids could type depending on how old they are, or with the parents' help, they could fill out a Google form. So Google Forms are free and they allow you to write questions, and then the kids can submit their answers that way. That's Google Forms. Of course, you can also just keep it simple, have the kids write their answers on pencil and paper, have them tell their families, whatever works for you and whatever is okayed by your school. I really feel like you can use these materials and adapt them to your specific situation. Okay, let's see. So yes, when you download that freebie, which the link is in this post, if you haven't gotten it yet, you will have, there's technically 6, there's 2 for kindergarten, 2 for first grade, and 2 for second grade, I believe. So you will have access to decodable passages right away. Again, use that small PDF option, that website, to extract just those pages, and you can send them to parents. Okay, so moving on to strategy number 3. So we've gone over the written sort, we've gone over the decodable passages, both things that are like core components of my phonics instruction and the From Sounds to Spelling program, and stuff you can do at home or for at-home teaching, virtual teaching, whatever you want to call it. Let's talk about word building. Most of us have probably done word building already. It's just where kids are using like magnetic letters, magnetic tiles, even paper letters. So if you don't have magnetic letters, it's not a big deal, because From Sounds to Spelling actually has little tiles that you can print out, and maybe you laminate them or put them on cardstock, but all you need is paper that the kids can use. And when you're teaching remotely, you might have the kids use virtual or digital magnetic letters. And I have a freebie for you with that, and I'll show you that in a second. But this is literally just you saying a word and the kids building it. Well, that's one way you can do it, right? It can actually be done 2 different ways. So you can do it one way to have the kids practice reading words, which is a little bit easier. And you can do it another way to have the kids practice spelling words. So there's really like 2 ways to do word building. So if you want to do reading practice, and this would be when you want the kids to practice reading words with a certain phonics pattern, this would be earlier in your instruction. It could be right after you introduce a phonics pattern. But in this option, you direct the kids and tell them exactly what letters to use. So, you might say, okay, I want you to pull down the M, or find the letter that says M, find the A, find the T. And then you say, okay, what does that say? What word did you make? And they read mat. Now, after that, you could say, okay, take away the M and put an R in there. Now, what word did you make? Rat. So in that case, you're telling them what letters to use, and the kids are reading the words. But there's another option too. You can also just tell the kids what word to make. So you could just say, okay, make the word mat, and they have to figure out what letters they use to build it. And then you might say, okay, what word did you make? Mat. So they're still reading it, of course. They're still reading it, but they're also asked to make it in this example. Okay, now we're going to change mat into rat. What letter are we going to switch out? To take the M, put the R in. So then, of course, they read it again, but this option is more about them actually spelling the words. And when you're having them change only 1 or 2 letters, that's really driving home just the way our language works, and that if you make small changes to the letters, then you're changing the sounds of the word as well. So it's actually kind of helpful for phonological awareness as well, even though it's really a phonics focused activity. All right, I see some people tagging people. Awesome. Yes, feel free to spread the word, because I would love for as many teachers to get these freebies as possible. Again, there's 2 freebies in the post. There's the week of From Sounds to Spelling, and then there's also the digital magnetic letters that I'm going to talk about right now. I know that we're all in this challenging situation, so I would love if you have any teacher friends or anybody on your team, please tag them. Please let them know about this, because I want as many teachers to have these resources as possible. Okay, so as I said, you can also do this virtually. Now, if you're in a small group or in your classroom, it's a lot easier when the kids are right there. You can, however, have them build words at home, as long as it's okay with your school, your district, and the technology that they have access to. So I have in the post there these virtual magnetic letter manipulatives. And what these are just things that they can actually move around on their screen to build words. There's also math stuff in there, but let me pull these up. So you will need a free Boom Learning account. That has nothing to do with me. It's just the platform that I used to build these things on. And you can give the kids a little code, and when they go to boomlearning.com, they put in the code and they get access to this. And so what they'll then be able to do is, if you say, okay, I want you to make the word chat, they can actually pull down the letters and make the word chat. And then they have to put them back, or you show them the right thing. Now, the one tricky thing about this, if you're doing it live, or whether you're doing it live or whether you're doing it in the video chat is you'll probably need for your kids to have 2 windows open. You would need for them to have one internet window with this, and then one internet window with either your live chat or your video where you're telling them what words to make. So hopefully families would be able to navigate that. If not, what you could do is just give the parents a list of words, and the parents say the word, they use it in a sentence, and then the kids spelled it. But either way, this is a way to give kids access to movable letters at home when we're not at school. So that freebie is here, and that link is there for you in the download. Thanks to everybody who is sharing the love with their teacher friends. You're so welcome, Vanessa. I'm really glad that this is what you needed. Okay, so I kind of went over this already. If you want to do a live video where you're having kids make words, a little bit easier because you're there, you're directing them, but you can also do a pre-recorded video. If you remember where I did this PowerPoint, sorry for making you dizzy by scrolling. If you remember where I did this PowerPoint and I have blank slide, word, blank slide, word, you can do the same thing whether kids are writing the words or if they're building them. And then you just tell the kids, okay, pause this video and make the word whatever it is. All right, so I think that's all I had to say about word building. And by the way, these routines are not, I don't do all of these phonics routines every day. I kind of sprinkle them in throughout the week. In from sounds to spelling, you know, it depends on where you are in the year, right? Because kindergarten at the very beginning of the year is all about letters and those very beginning skills. So it really does depend. But generally speaking, I like to do word building a couple of times a week, decodable passages a couple of times a week. I would say like 3, 4 if you can. And then for the written sort, I typically only do that once per week, just to give you a sense of how often these routines are done. All right, sorry for all the scrolling. Let's get into dictation. So a dictation is just when you give kids sounds, words, and or sentences to write. It's very simple, but it is so powerful. And I kind of stumbled upon this accidentally. So this was a while ago. This was like 10 years ago, at least. I was teaching in Spanish, and what I noticed is that my kids were really getting stronger in their phonics abilities. And this applies to English too. I've seen it in English too. When I was having them write lots of words, because they were required to apply, again, coming back to application, they were having to apply their knowledge of letters and their sounds to actually write words. And so I just noticed that it was having such a big difference. And since then, I've learned a lot about why that matters. And, you know, just it had the research affirm what I kind of stumbled upon, but it's incredibly powerful, but also incredibly simple. In a dictation, if it's a word, the kids are encouraged to break up the words into their sounds. So if you're having them write the word stay, this is probably backwards for you, but you might have them tap it out, stay, and then they write the sounds, and then you show them the correct word, and then they check it. So I'm going to zoom in real quick on this sheet. If it'll let me. You might, it seems a lot like a normal spelling test, like what probably a lot of us had when we were growing up. But it's different. It's not necessarily for assessment, although you can use it for assessment. And once kids get past a certain point and from sounds to spelling, you are doing a weekly dictation and you use that as assessment data. But you also do it earlier on in the week simply as practice, because again, it's so useful in getting kids to take their letter sound knowledge and really apply it. Okay, so what I'm trying to show you here is a dictation sheet, I believe, from the first grade version of From Sounds to Spelling. It looks different depending on what level you're at. Obviously, kindergarten at the beginning of the year is not going to look like this. But in this example, I have 10 words for you to read. You read each word to the kids, you use it in a sentence, and then either you tap it out as a class or they tap it out on their own. Totally depends on where you're at. But these are sound boxes. So this word might have been something like may, and they'd have to write the M here and the AY here. These sound boxes, you don't have to use paper like this. You can literally just use plain paper for a dictation. But again, going back to reinforcing the link between letters and sounds, this helps the kids. It just provides a little bit of a support in spelling because they can see, okay, well, for the M, there's one letter, and then for the A, I'm going to need 2 letters. So it's just a little bit of a supportive thing that you can do. Now, I read the word, they write it in the sound boxes, and then I show them the correct word. Over here, it says copied spelling. I have not had a lot of luck with getting kids to erase words and fix stuff unless they're doing whiteboards, which you can absolutely do dictations on a whiteboard as well. But what I like to do instead is just have them copy the correct spelling over. They can absolutely fix it here, but it's nice to have it written neatly. And if you don't have them fix it, then what you can do is you can see, okay, where are my kids at right now? So what I recommend in a lot of weeks of From Sound to Spelling is doing one of these like on the second or third day of the week to really gauge like how are the kids doing with this particular skill? And then you can adjust your plans from there because the lessons really are flexible. They're designed to help you meet your kids' needs, whatever those are. And so dictation is great for practice for them, but it's also great for supporting you in terms of figuring out what you want to do with the kids in the future lessons. So anyway, we just go through the words like this. You can also include sounds, like, for example, this doesn't show it, but you might say, okay, the sound is A. Repeat, and the kids say A. And then they write all the ways that they know to spell the long A. So it could be A magic E, it could be AI, it could be AY. So it's not just limited to words and sentences, it could also be sounds as well, which is especially great for kinder. I love doing dictations with kinder. We often use whiteboards. From Sounds to Spelling has them using whiteboards for a long time before we ever kind of, break this out. In the freebie, it will have the kinders using paper like this because it's for later on in the school year. So it's a little bit different, but at the beginning we start with whiteboards. Whiteboards are great for dictation too. The paper is nice just for having a record of how they're doing. So down here, you'll see that there's actually, it looks like there's space for 4 sentences, but it's actually 2 sentences. You dictate a sentence, and that sentence should have high frequency words that they've been working on and words with the phonics patterns that they've been working on as well. And this, again, is just an opportunity for them to practice not only the spelling words, but it takes another level of word knowledge to not only know how to spell a word, but to be able to use it in a sentence. Because when they're writing a sentence, there's so much that's going on. They're thinking about like, okay, remembering the sentence, they're thinking about the capital letter, the spaces, the punctuation. And so here you really get to see, okay, well, maybe they know the word kind of, but can they actually use it in the sentence? It's also a great opportunity to review words from previous weeks that you've been working on, review high frequency words, review just basics of a sentence when they're at that level where they need to work on capital letter and period. So they write the sentence that you dictate here, and then I show them the correct thing, and then they copy it over down here. So they're actually writing the same sentence twice, but this one should be the correct one. And then if you don't have them fix the original one, you can see how they did. And again, that's great. Doesn't have to be a formal assessment. It can be informal, but it can be really valuable in just helping you figure out how to adjust your lessons. All right, so what I was talking about is kind of how I would do it in class if we were physically together. However, that is not our situation right now, but I want to assure you that you can do this virtually. If your kids have access to pencil and paper, I know some do, I know some don't, you can do this same thing. And like I was talking about, this can be done in a live video where you're saying, okay, write the word blah, 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 and they write it. It can also be done where the parents are dictating stuff, where you just give them a list. Can also be done where you do a video recording and then you say, okay, pause this video and write the word hat or whatever you're having them write. So when I showed you earlier in the presentation where you do the PowerPoints with blank slide word, you can absolutely do that for here too. One important thing I think to explain to parents is that this is practice and not a test, because a lot of parents may be familiar with traditional spelling tests where it was like an assessment and the point was to memorize the words. And this is not for memorizing words. If they memorize words in the process, super. But like the sound boxes really encourage them to think about the sounds in the words, tap the words out. And so it's not just about memorizing words, it's about, using their phonics knowledge. Again, application. Okay, so that was number 4, I think. Yeah, I think that was number 4. Now let's talk about breaking words into syllables. So this was something that I did not know how to do myself as an adult. for many years, but it is an incredibly helpful strategy for teaching kids how to spell words, but also how to read words. Often, phonics programs will focus on one syllable words for a number of years. And one syllable words, of course, are like the foundation and they're important for kids to be able to read and spell. But the reality is that once kids are about in first grade and up, they're also needing to read multisyllabic words. And so, from sounds to spelling has them, yes, working on those one syllable words, but also it gives them opportunities to break up multisyllabic words and notice what phonics patterns are in them and read them, because that's a skill that they're absolutely going to need to know how to do. And if we don't work on that until they're in like third grade or fourth grade, I feel like we're really doing our kids a disservice. So breaking words into syllables is a part of From Sounds to Spelling in first grade and up. It's also great because it's an opportunity for vocabulary work. Often those multisyllabic words are words that maybe the kids don't know their meaning, or they could, improve upon their understanding of a word. So when I'm having kids break up words, we also talk about what the words mean. Now, in a regular classroom setting, one thing that you can do is you can print. From Sounds to Spelling has words that you can print and you just cut apart the strips and the kids get them. You can also just have the kids like copy the word on a little piece of paper, and you can have them physically cut apart the word at its syllables. So that's an option for when you're teaching in person. Take a drink of water, my voice is leaving me. So that's an in-person option where this little dotted line I'm showing you, the kids actually cut it apart into the syllables. However, if you're doing virtual teaching, you can do this too. You would just have them copy the word onto a piece of paper and they would like draw a line where the syllables are instead of cutting, or they could cut depending on what kind of situation they have at home. So in order for kids to be able to break words into their syllables, they need to know the syllable division rules. There's only 4 syllable division rules in English, no matter what word it is. And there's some nuances to it, but that's totally outlined for you and From Sounds to Spelling, because I know that I did not start teaching. For many years, I was teaching without knowing this. And so if you don't know the syllable types, the syllable division rules, please know that you are not alone. That's something that often is not taught. I didn't learn it in school. I didn't learn it in my teacher prep undergrad. I did not learn it in my master's. So this is something that I had to learn on my own. So that's why From Sounds to Spelling has just everything outlined for you, and also professional development videos so that you really understand what you're doing and why. But anyway, the kids will need to learn the different syllable division rules. We just do it one at a time, starting in first grade. We don't learn them all at once. They also need to learn the syllable types. I feel like syllable division rules are number 1, but learning syllable types is also really helpful because it helps kids navigate the different vowel sounds in words. So for example, if they see, this is not an example that I'm using on the screen, but if they see, the open syllable bow, like in the word bonus, they know that the O says O and it doesn't say ah because it's not a closed syllable. So it helps them read the word. Knowing the syllable types helps them read the word, and that's extremely helpful, especially for all kids, but for kids who have special needs. But anyway, From Sounds to Spelling does teach them the different syllable types. Like this is a closed syllable, this is a vowel team syllable. It has them code it. They circle the vowels. When they first get the word, they circle the vowels. They draw a line with the consonants, figure out what syllable division rule applies. They can divide it, and they code the syllables. And of course, it takes a little bit at first, but they get, to it really quickly. And the ultimate goal is for them to read the word. It's not just about like analyzing words on like a really minute level. This stuff that they're doing helps them read multisyllabic words, which is the goal. So when I give them a word, I don't tell them what the word says. I don't say, okay, boys and girls is a display. No, I just copy. I either have the word on the board and they copy it, or I hand them the strip. And I say, okay, your job is not to read the word right away, but to divide it up first. So they divide it. And then when they look at the syllable types, they figure out what the vowel sounds say. And from there, they read the word. And so display isn't super hard, but you'll find that your first graders can actually read words that you might have thought were like really challenging, or they feel like they're reading big words, which makes them feel amazing, just by teaching them how to break the words into their syllables. Incredibly valuable. And then after we break it up, we read it. We also talk about what the word means. give a little example so you can tie in some vocabulary too. Now at home, you can do this too. You can still show the kids a word on the PowerPoint slide. You don't have to read it to them, or you don't read it to them. They just copy it down, code the syllables, divide it up, and then they can read the word to a family member. And you can also differentiate this pretty easily. In the classroom, I do recommend teaching from sounds to spelling in small groups. You can teach it whole group because there's like differentiation materials within the program. But you can easily differentiate by just giving kids different words to break up, right, of different difficulty levels. So if you want to differentiate this while you're teaching remotely, just make 2 videos. Send one video to some kids and send one video to another group of kids. Okay, thanks to everybody who is continuing to tag other teachers. So we make sure that they get those freebies, because again, there is that whole full week of phonics instruction in From Sounds to Spelling. So that link is from soundstospelling.com/freebie, where you can get a kindergarten, first grade, second grade week. Get access to that. It's just some materials that you can use that will hopefully save you some time as you're trying to pull stuff together for virtual learning. And remember that you can split the PDFs for free if you go to a small PDF, and you can pull out things that parents can use. All right, so we talked about these 5 activities that we can use for in-person phonics instruction. There's more that I do, and I'll show you some examples, but this is kind of like just some go-to activities that will work with many different phonics patterns. And of course, you adjust depending on how old your kids are, but From Sounds to Spelling does that for you. So now I want to show you just a little bit of a peek at the materials. And you do get a peek if you go into the freebie, but these are some things from other weeks as well. So From Sounds to Spelling has been a long time in the making. I personally have used some different phonics programs. You can let me know maybe in the chat what phonics program you use, but I wasn't really able to find something that was all encompassing. I felt like there are some great programs out there and they had helpful materials, but I was always supplementing, always pulling more stuff in, kind of like teacher life, right? And that's okay, but based on what I was hearing from other teachers as well, there was just a need for a phonics program and a phonological awareness program that was engaging, that was based on research and science, multi-sensory instruction, flexible. Maybe you're teaching whole group, maybe you're teaching small group, but you want to be able to differentiate and meet your kids' needs no matter what you're doing. So that's kind of where From Sounds to Spelling comes from. And it's designed to be kind of a time saver too. Like, of course, you're going to need to teach reading and writing, but From Sounds to Spelling does address phonological awareness, phonics and spelling, and there's also vocabulary and handwriting in there. I would also add, I didn't put that on the slide, but I would also add reading comprehension, a little bit of writing, because you saw that decodable passage where the kids are answering questions, talking about it. There's some of that in there too. And I also designed From Sounds to Spelling on this special platform. So you might know that I have a TPT store and a lot of stuff goes in there, but this is unique. There are some videos for the kids to watch, mostly kindergarten, couple first and second too, but there's videos for the kids to watch that I wanted to get to you. But there's also professional development videos for you to watch. So when you have the full version of From Sounds to Spelling, which again, you can get it for pre-sale now through April 24th. You can check out the freebie. But when you have the whole version, what you're gonna have, and the materials will continue to be released throughout the summer, is professional development videos. Because like I said, there were things that I just didn't know when it came to phonics instruction, that I did not know for years, that I really wish I knew. And because the English language is complex and we want to make sure that kids are truly, becoming proficient in it, I wanted to put professional development videos in there, and also to make your life easier, so that I'm not just giving you this program, but also showing you how to use it, how to integrate it into your literacy block, what to do if you have a time crunch situation. So those videos are in there, and that's why it's hosted on like a totally different platform. So you'll have a whole login, and pre-purchasers already, a bunch of people have pre-purchased already, and they already have the whole final unit. So they either have the whole final unit for kinder, whole final unit for first, whole final unit for second, and throughout the summer, they're gonna get the rest of the materials. Now you can get it for pre-sale at the big discount through April 24th. After April 24th, My web designer, Helen, is actually going to take this down because it's not going to be available again until September when the whole thing is finished. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to get like a first look at it over the summer so that you're not feeling stressed and like having to look at everything in September. Again, if you want to start in September, that's totally fine, but I wanted to give you this opportunity. So I'm going to give you a peek at a few of the other materials. There are materials like I've shown you earlier in this presentation, but there's also just a lot of fun games for the kids. I included a combination of games that involve reading words and writing words. I find that a lot of programs or just, materials that are out there have the kids reading words, which is great. But what they really need to be able to do also is write and spell the words and also focus on the patterns that the words have. So there's a combination, there's a balance of games that involve reading and games that involve writing. And when I can have the kids using them in a sentence or talking about vocabulary, I try to incorporate that as much as well. So here is also another example. This is more for like the first grade and second grade. As I said, there is vocabulary work in there that's related to the words that they're learning. You can do as much of that as you want. Maybe you have another vocabulary program, maybe not. It's kind of up to you, but there's closed sentences, CLOZE, which are great for getting kids not only to memorize or not memorize the words, but learn the words and the phonics patterns, but also to think about what they mean. The program also has printable phonics posters. Yes, the alphabet, but also different sound patterns. So like you might have one for different blends or digraphs or vowel teams. And it also comes with assessment. So this is just one page of an assessment. The kids are tested on after each unit. You have your weekly thing where you're doing the dictation and you can assess the kids based on that, but each unit also has an assessment so that you can see how the kids have done with all the skills in that unit. And there's vocabulary assessment that's optional that's tied in there as well. And speaking of assessments, there is going to be a placement exam. It's not ready quite yet, but there's going to be a placement exam so you can see like, okay, this is, how my kids are doing right now, and this is where in the program I need to put them. Because not all kids are the same in their development, right? Like generally they progress along this trajectory, but they progress along that trajectory of learning at different paces. We all know that, right? So what that placement test allows you to do is really pinpoint what they need to work on and put them at the point in the program that best fits their needs, because it's all about meeting kids' needs. So we also have optional vocabulary posters if you want to use those. Like you can see this uses the AW spelling pattern. So we're, talking about words that they might not know that have the AW spelling pattern. We've got games, like I mentioned. We've got those decodable passages. We've got word sorts. And then, I believe this is second to last slide. So if you just need a normal kindergarten, first grade, second grade, or K-2 license, you can just go to fromsoundstospelling.com and grab it. Now, if you have a grade level team, I do have a discount available for you. For example, if you're purchasing like 3 first grade licenses, because each teacher would need their own login in order to be able to access the materials, log into the site and all that. So if you need that option, you can email me. It's Allison with 1 L, ALISON at learning@theprimarypond.com, and I can get you like a separate setup so that you get that discount. The discount isn't available through the site just because of the way things have to be set up, but you can email me for that if you need like a multiple license discount. So like I said, the pre-sale is going on through April 24th. This is your opportunity to get a big discount compared to what it'll be when it's released in September. And also early access. Like I talked about earlier, I would love for you to have access to the first unit. You'll get that by the end of June. And then the other units are coming in like July and August. I know that back to school time is so crazy. And I was thinking about not releasing it until September when it's fully ready, but I wanted you to hopefully be able to look at the materials and just feel like you have just like a better handle on what the year is gonna look like, and also start watching those professional development videos as they're released. So that's why I wanted to give you this opportunity for the pre-sale. But that is over at the end of the day on April 24th. And if you miss the pre-sale, then you can absolutely buy in September once the whole thing is available. All right, well, thank you so much for watching. I do hope this was helpful. Don't forget to download your freebies that are in the post there. And if you shared with other teachers, teacher friends, thank you so much for sharing that. I would love to get these freebies in as many people's hands as possible because this is just a tough time. And I hope that these resources are helpful to you. If you do have questions about the program or anything like that, feel free to leave them here. Thank you so much for watching. Take good care and stay healthy.